Welcome to Hue at Home and Merry Christmas to everybody out there. It is Christmas Eve and what a special time it is this year to be with family and friends. So on Hue today we are going to have author and poet Laurie Fischer on set. He'll talk about his new book, Musings on a Life Well Lived. Well, Laurie, I think it was almost a year ago or so, but we were having a conversation on Zoom. So, hey, we've come a long way.
I am so happy to see you in person finally.
I know, yes. And it's crazy that 2021 has just flown by, but a very special year for you, yes. Young man. And I say that affectionately because you still have this incredible head of hair, because you know my husband, and he's bald. So I don't know. I think that should be your next book, Laurie, on how to keep a great head of hair. But
yeah. How to stay young, I'm not sure. But
yeah.
But it's so nice to see you in person because things are evolving and moving forward finally.
Yes. Okay. So this is book number 2.
Yes.
Your first book, and it's poetry.
Yes.
So folks, you know, you might remember this face because you've seen him on stage. You know, the North Kildonan community players, and you know, always so active in the arts and culture scene here locally. But now you've dabbled with the pen and you've become master of the pen. So this second book, and I have the book here so I can read the title properly, Musings on a Life Well Lived. Sierra, I always assumed it was like about you, like my life well lived.
No, it's about everybody's life. It's more general because there are a couple of poems from my childhood, but mostly it's just about life. And we've divided this book into sections. You know, really, I write because I want to stay sane. And the fact is, and you asked me last time, you know, why did I write poetry the pandemic? And it was really to help and uplift and motivate people. But it was also to keep from going insane when everything shut down at the beginning of the pandemic. There was no sports, there was no arts, there was nothing. So many years ago in university, I used to write. And I took up the pen again and dabbled and put a few on Facebook, and people really reacted. They said, you know, you really should collect these together. And so that's how Poetry the Pandemic came about. And then I just kind of kept on writing. But this time it's more positive. We're moving away from the pandemic, although at times it doesn't feel like it. And I just like the word musings. It kind of covers everything. And there's everything in this book, from the seasons to nature to my puppies, you know, to life in general. I even wrote a couple of poems. You'll remember when Prince Philip died, as an example. And I remember the visual of seeing this little lady, Queen Elizabeth, sitting all alone in the church. And I wrote a poem that day while watching her called The Final Farewell. And it was about their 70 years together, but also the fact at the end, if you watched, she walked out and kind of walked back into the sunlight. And that was kind of, she still wore the mantle of monarchy. And so, again, it was just a timely, you know, poem to write.
And so these inspirations just happen, Laurie, or do you kind of think, okay, I'm going to write about this today?
I never know what I'm going to write about. And actually that's one of the joys of being, well, now a published poet, is a lot of my inspiration comes from nature. As you know, I am an avid bike rider ever since I was diagnosed. I started riding. I ride about 300 times a year, and very often what happens, I would say 75% of the poetry that I write is between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Because what will happen is I'll get an idea of riding a bike, you know, one day, and then it kind of formulates. But you never know where inspiration is going to come from. I find, you know, sunrises and sunsets, nature, my puppies, my family, life around me, you know, always inspires. But it comes from very strange areas as well. I was drinking a cup of tea one morning, and I looked at my mug, and it said, "Be awesome today." And I thought, that's a great poem. And I wrote. And I wrote about being awesome today. But it comes from all over, whether you're watching TV. One of my very recent poems that isn't in this book, it'll be in the next one. I was watching a special on Karen Carpenter, who was an absolute phenomenal singer. I mean, she could hold an audience transfixed, and she really was a voice gone far too soon. And so I wrote a poem called Karen, and it's about the influence that she had on the generation of baby boomers, and yet so suddenly she was gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then this is not the end, correct? Like there is third one coming.
I like the idea of a trilogy. I've always, as you know, I do a lot of stage work, and I always tell my actors that a musical has a full circle to it. You want to have a full circle, you know, it comes around in the end and things are resolved. So the first book, Poetry of the Pandemic, was right in the middle of the present. It was how do we cope with something we've never had to cope with before. Musings on a Life Well Lived is partly about the past, partly about the present, but it's more, I think, more positive. I'm always positive in my writing, but it's a larger book. The third book, and I'm already about 60 poems into it, because I do write quite a bit. It's called The Future Awaits Us. So I like the idea of having a trilogy, kind of a past, present, and future. And if people keep reading and liking what I'm doing, then I'll just keep writing.
Wow. So give us a little tidbit of the future. What does Laurie see the future as?
I see the future, believe it. Now, I don't mean to be negative, but I think COVID is around to stay for at least 3 to 5 years. But we will adapt to it. We're already adapting. And although new strains come out, people are not panicking like they did 2 years ago. And I think they're saying, okay, like we always seem to be about 6 months behind behind the States in terms of, you know, the Delta and now the Omicron, or what I can never, Omicron, I can never say what it is. But I think I'm very positive about the future, because as we adapt, our lives have changed, and I think they've changed permanently. And you'll read some of that in my poetry, that we really are in a new normal. The great news now, and one of the things I personally, and you know I'm a hugger, one of the things I really missed was having close contact with people, because there were so many rumors during the pandemic. You know, if you touch something, and of course eventually they discovered, no, it's aerosols, and it's that kind of thing. But now we can hug again, and life is getting somewhat back to normal. And again, it changes all the time, but I see the future as a very positive future for us. I think our kids, you know, have great opportunities, because as much as things have changed in the last decade, I mean, I'm 67 now, and I don't mean to sound old, but I mean, I remember the days when it was just 3 channels on television. And I'm amazed by how quickly things change now. And my daughter, Pamela Ross, who is my editor of both my books so far, basically, and I thank her over and over, because I'm a poet. I am not a publisher per se. And she handled a lot of the details. But I think that with the advent of social media and the instantaneousness of everything, I mean, you know, there's so much negative news around, and you see it instantly now. And I think that that's one of the changes that we have to get used to. Hey, there might be a poem in that.
I think so.
But I think that the world continues to speed up, and it's right now, you know, it's happening now, and you're watching it now. So
maybe we just need to slow down and take a look and read Musings on a Life Well Lived. So it is Christmas Eve, so Laurie, I would love it if you could do a reading from your book.
Well, as it happens, I would love to, and this is a poem I actually wrote last Christmas Eve, and this is very appropriate because it's called Christmas Eve. And I was, you know, I mean, I love Christmas time. It's a family time, and, you know, you get together with your grandchildren, not your grandchildren, but my, my grandchildren. And I was looking forward to the next morning, and I looked out the window, and it was a very cold night, and this is exactly what I saw. A street lamp flickering silently, glowing, shining, lighting up, a million twinkling snowflakes as they gently fall, adding to the shimmering blanket of dazzling white already on the ground. The waning crescent of the moon sends down a beautiful radiance, faintly illuminating the milky mantle below with an effervescent seasonal glow. The subdued shadows of rabbits, nervously searching, digging for food, their yellow eyes glowing, always watching for any danger around them. Birds flying high above, indistinguishable by sight in the dark, known only by the chirping, cheeping, or chattering sounds they make, calling out to one another. The trees, shrouded silhouettes in the blackness surrounding them, dancing in the cold winter wind, swaying to the symphony of the season. Homes, covered and dressed in snow, outlined by flashing Christmas lights, shining brightly in the darkness, reflecting on the snow below. In the front windows, dazzling Christmas trees, brightly adorned with decorations. Presents wrapped and scattered on the floor beneath, ready and waiting for the morning to arrive. White clouds of warm smoke billowing from the chimneys, rising slowly, disappearing into the darkness of the night sky. All these combine to create a quiet, mysterious landscape, a surreal winter wonderland, a picture of peaceful serenity on this special night of nights. The sable black of the sky, contrasting yet combining with the frosted white of the freshly fallen snow, all working together to create the perfect picture of another Christmas Eve.
Oh.
And that's Christmas Eve.
That is Christmas Eve. Thank you so much, Laurie, for coming and stopping by. It's been so good to share with you. Now, lastly, though, if people would like to order a book, how can they do that?
It's very simple. You just have to call me and we will make arrangements. The books are $25. A portion of the proceeds will go to the Never Alone Cancer Foundation, which has been incredibly good to me since I was diagnosed 3 years ago. And so a portion will go to them. They simply call me 204-890-8999 and we can make arrangements. Basically, if I have to mail it out, they pay for postage, and I'd be happy to do that anytime.
Oh, well, thank you so much. All the best, and happy holidays to you and your family, Laurie.
Happy holidays to you, and I hope you and Kevin and your kids have a wonderful time.
Thank you.
Girl, you know what's up. Ooh, say what, say what, say what. Girl, you know what's up. Ooh, say what, say what, say what. So tell me what's up. I'm digging you. I'm digging you. Girl, you know what's up. Say I'm digging you, and I'm holding you. So tell me what's up.
Welcome back to Hue at Home. Now we take a look back at 2021 and some of the talented musicians that we've had on the show. I get reacquainted with Jeffery Straker. He's a dear friend, and he tells us a little bit more about a special song that he wrote for his mom. I want to give a very warm Winnipeg welcome, although, Jeffery, it's snowing today in Winnipeg. But anyways, a warm Winnipeg welcome to you, Jeffery Straker. COVID has not been one iota of a difference for you. It sounds like you've been busy making music. Making music, making music and music, making all of it. Well, so first of all, you can hopefully keep your snow in Winnipeg. It's a cool day here in Regina. I think we're supposed to warm up to like about 7 or something. So spring's coming. I'm being optimistic here, so that's good. But you're right. I have been really busy. I've been releasing a whole bunch of singles off what will soon to be a full album that I'm going to release, and planning an online tour, because that's what COVID lets us do these days, is go touring online. So here we are. Well, and I take it too, your lovely living room in Regina is now converted to a wonderful recording studio. So, you know, and it's not sort of unlike where I am too. I've converted my basement into a small little TV studio, so I can still connect and spread the word on what all of these Canadian artists are doing. I guess let's start with you, how this has all unfolded. And I know it, I guess, really starts with a tragedy, and I'm really sorry to hear about the loss of your mother. So that's, I think, when...
This new album did really sort of, a lot of it came from, sadly, from the loss of Mom. She passed away really suddenly and really unexpectedly, you know, with sort of no advance warning, if you will, 2 years and 3 months ago. And when you lose someone that close, I mean, I'm able to finally talk about it without bawling my head off. But when you know, because I've had a lot of time to process this. But when you lose someone that close, people who have lost someone that close will know you're thrown into a lot of, like, the grieving process throws you into quite a turmoil. And you look at your own, like, you look at, of course, all the memories you have with that person, but then you also, part of that is looking at your own self, and you look at sort of like where you've come from and where you're headed, because you're really hit with this real poignant sort of notion of mortality. Not to get too profound about it, but you really are. And you know, you go through the questioning and the grieving, and you have some sort of revelations and reach some sort of resolution. And luckily for me, I came out of all that process I landed on gratitude. You know, I landed on the notion of being really thankful for the person that I had for the time that I had her, because she was a wonderful, wonderful mom. And that has sort of informed this recording, like all the songs on it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and you know what, and everybody's journey is so different, and I just want to say that I am so happy personally that it has been a positive one for you, because I know that, you know, for some people it isn't a positive journey, and like you said, you kind of have to look at it as a blessing, as something, a gift, you know, to have known her, for her to love you and share, you know, her life experiences with you. And so I know this has inspired your work. How is this album different than some of your rest or previous works?
It for sure, it's more personal. Like a lot of my past records, and even before Mom passed away, there was an evolution in my songwriting to go from having the lens be pointed outwards, and I was often writing about other characters and other people and places, and being an observer and a chronicler. And over time, probably because we're all getting older, aren't we, the lens has turned inwards, and I've been a lot more introspective and sort of chronicling inner things. And so what happened with the passing of Mom on this recording is, by and large, the songs are just far more personal, because she was like her passing was almost like this catalyst to dig deeper. And I've always wanted to dig deeper, and I've been trying to dig deeper, and I've been going deeper. But with her being gone, it just made me sort of almost fall deeper. And as a result, the songs are just a lot more personal, you know? And I like the ones I like the past songs I wrote in the past that were like, you know, observing other people, and they went over really well with audiences at shows. But I really hope, and I feel these ones will also be received well. Just like they also chronicle, just they're pointed in a different way, you know.
Well, and I'll ask you this then, interesting, because, and I kind of remember your songs, you're like that, like called you like a troubadour, a traveling man that, you know, would tell these stories. And that does relate so well to a live audience. We're going to be talking now about your virtual tour, which I know a lot of artists are doing. Will this record probably mean more because you are virtual, because it's just you, you're not in front of a live audience, and you have that chance to be really personal? I think could be very powerful virtually.
I hope so. I mean, it is the whole this whole doing shows online when there's no one in the room is a really tricky sort of hurdle for people who make their living as a live performing musician, because that performance is not one-dimensional from the stage into sort of an abyss. There's an exchange of energy, as you would know, versus like having someone in your studio versus doing these things over a camera. I mean, there's an exchange of energy that happens there when there's an audience. Now with no audience, you literally are sort of left with putting something out there. And to your point, I actually never really thought of this until you said it, but that's a really neat observation that these songs are coming from such a deeper place. It probably will help them, you know, transport through this, you know, virtual sort of means. That I mean, now you're going to make me watch for it when I'm doing this. No, it's a really interesting point. I hope that does happen, because they are coming from a much deeper place.
Yeah, I mean, and it's hard to do, because I know too, or whatever, if you're doing a live show, you get that energy, I know, off the audience, and that sort of is your adrenaline, right, to move and to be even more energetic. Let's talk now the whole process about the virtual tour. And of course, you're going to be coming to Winnipeg, I believe May 12th, at the West End Cultural Center. So how is that all going to work, Jeffrey?
Well, so the stage is actually in Regina, and so the performance happens in Regina, and then I've partnered with 6 venues across the country to sort of go on this virtual tour, and it starts on April 30th in Calgary with the Calgary Folk Club, winds its way across the country, and the Manitoba stop, if you will, is a partnership with the West End Cultural Center, where I've performed in the past live on their great grand piano, and so, you know, they're promoting the show or to their audience and their listeners. I'm promoting the show to my Winnipeg followers, and hopefully what that does is it allows their listeners, my listeners, to sort of maintain some sort of community around music, even though it's hard to gather around music in this online sense, you know? So the stream will happen to people's computers in their homes, but the stage will be in Regina. And I have these 6 dates across the country. In reality, anybody can get a ticket to any date, but you know, we're encouraging people in Winnipeg to check out the Winnipeg evening, because a portion of the proceeds do go to the West End Cultural Center.
Yes, and that's another point too, right? All of these incredible venues with no live music. It is so sad. And I mean, yes, we're kind of looking at our probably 3rd lockdown, but the music venues have all been closed anyways throughout this. Jeffrey, and we will see light at the end of the tunnel. Where do you think your first show will be? What will it look like live?
Once the pandemic's done, you know what's really odd? I've actually not even thought of this, because I'm in that. I mean, well, here's the thing. After I do this virtual tour in May, this summer I do have live shows booked. I've actually got 40 of them booked, but they're in backyards. So what people have leaned forward and they've crossed their fingers and thought, okay, we'll probably be able to have gatherings of 30 outdoors this summer. So a lot of my fans from my social media pages have reached out to me, and it's over 40 now have booked these backyard shows. So my first shows are going to be in backyards, and people have reached out to me right from the Okanagan to the eastern townships of Quebec. So, you know, touch wood, we can travel. If not, there's a whole heap of them in Saskatchewan if we can't go anywhere. So I've sort of hedged, sort of protected all the options. But those will be the first shows, and then really, hopefully by the fall, like, you know, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but at least it's my hope that some smaller audiences will be allowed in venues, and then hopefully by December, I know a lot of larger venues in Canada are now booking big shows for December.
Really? Have you been Have you been vaccinated yet?
This is the sad story. My vaccination day was yesterday, and they ran out of vaccine.
Oh, are you serious? Oh my goodness.
So I have to wait. I have to wait for 2 weeks now.
No. Oh my
Are you
goodness.
vaccinated?
Not yet, but they've lowered it. Yeah, they've lowered it to 40, right? In Saskatchewan too. Yeah. So, yes. So I'm booking and might just go and get it. You know, instead of going to the super site. I don't know. We've been having this whole big conversation. Vaccines, music. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, you are going to play us a song. So.
Yeah.
What will it be?
I'm going to play you a song. It's the waltz off my record. It's called Play That Song Again. And it's the reason I'll play this one is it's quite a reflective song. And to me, it sort of captures the spirit of the rest of the record. It looks back and it sort of takes stock, but, you know, and sort of examines the past, but it lands on an optimistic note and is happy to be, you know, happy to have taken that glance to the past and is content where it ends up.
Oh, well, how beautiful. What a great ending. It's so good to see you again, Jeffrey. And everybody, check out his concerts online. He's going to be at the West End Cultural Center May 12th.
every now and then I look at your picture in a frame. You're the one I got drunk on and kept drinking anyway. You turned down my senses like some old radio, tuned them in. You helped me let them go. Held on for all I was worth and I let go again. I've tried to remember and I've tried to forget. You let me lost in my own body, from my head down to my toes. Play that song again, show me how it goes. Took me prisoner, left me on death row. The voice in my head saying I told you so. And I'm in my mother's arms, great more. Play that song again, show me how it goes. Yeah, play that song again, show me how it goes. Pray to the heavens while digging a grave, and filled it with pieces of promises I made. Oh, grown man crying for crying out loud. Fought with myself, but I stood my ground. Thought about making a change and starting all brand new. Moved the furniture round and round in my living room. Oh, how to mend the broken, no one really knows. Play that song again, show me how it goes. I can still hear your voice and it's speaking to me. We're dancing round and round in the honesty. I remember the music the first time, so soft and slow. Play that song again, show me how it goes. Yeah, play that song again, show me how it goes. Yeah, play that song again, show me how it goes.
So the Hive is a climbing and fitness facility, so we're bouldering only, which means no ropes or harnesses. We use mats for protection. The 4 pillars of our business are climbing, education, health and wellness, and community, and those aspects all kind of come together to create like a 5-star climbing experience.
We want to give a very special thank you to all of our guests on today's show and leave you with this question. What dish are you most looking forward to at Christmas dinner? We want to know, so send us an email to hello@ilikehue.com, or you could message us on Facebook and Instagram at iLikeHue. But for now, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you next time on Hue at Home.